We are continuing with lesson 9, which is about get the facts. Get the facts. A, you need to define the problem. Yeah, sounds very simple. Remember the phone call at 11 o'clock at night? The one problem becomes 7, 19, 39. What is the problem? Very often, the problem is not what it seems to you in the beginning. You think the problem is X, but after you get the facts, you would find out perhaps the problem isn't exactly as you defined it originally, initially. You need to define the problem. J. Adams suggests 3 levels, and George Scipione adds a 4th. Presentation, performance, preconditioning, and presuppositional. Presentation is what the person says to you. Performance, that's the person's life, the actual conduct and behavior. Preconditioning. Now, we're not Freudians here, all right? We don't believe in the psychology of Sigmund Freud, but we do believe that the person has a past, a family, an upbringing, experiences in life, that all of these do condition the person. He's still responsible as a covenant keeper before God. And finally, presuppositional. That means his values, his beliefs. Or Wayne Mack lists a 6-fold outline. Physical, resources, emotional, action, conceptual, and history. Physical. Sometimes we need to gather facts about their sleep habits, food, exercise, disease, drugs, alcohol, handicaps, and so on. 2, sometimes it's easy to forget to look for this one. Resources. Where have you gone to for help before you come here, before you came here today? Okay. What kind of help have you tried to get? Whom have you seen? What did they say? How did they help you? Resources. Where does your spouse stand on this issue? Or if a young person, what do your parents say about this? Have you talked to your parents about it yet? You say, you need to find out what the resources are and whether they have availed themselves of them. Emotions are important. They cause trouble. Worry, depression, fear, bitterness, anger, hopelessness, loneliness, and so on. So if people follow their emotions, particularly these kinds of emotions, they are going down a very destructive path. So we do need to identify any emotions that are obstacles to living a disciplined life of disciple. Action. I'll come back to action in a minute, which is the same thing as performance in the earlier outline. And then conceptual, motivation and values, and finally history or preconditioning. About 10 years ago, I went with my fellow pastor to visit a young man who was arrested for automobile theft. Not a member of our church, not related to our church, but somebody introduced this young person, I think his older sister, to us. So you know why pastors visit these people, right? Because they can get a letter of reference from the pastor when they go to court. Yeah. And we visited the home. It was late in the afternoon. He was alone, and the conversation doesn't seem to be going anywhere. He wasn't talking much. But we did know that he is an undergraduate student at UCLA, at the University of California, Los Angeles. I said, okay, today's Thursday. I'm going to come back to see you next, I forget the date, Tuesday or Wednesday. I want you to write down everything you do from the morning when you get up to when you go to bed. Now, not every minute, but all the major blocks of activities you have done every day. Now, this means that from Thursday to Wednesday, there are some weekend days and there are some weekday dates when he goes to school, right? And I want you to show me when we come back. So the next week we went back, and he did it, and he showed us. Gets up 8 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, waits for the cousin to pick him up in the car to go to school. 10 o'clock he has lecture. 12 o'clock grab a pizza and wait till the cousin is finished. Then he takes him back home. On the way they pick up Dunkin' Donuts. Then he gets home and get online. After a while maybe works out on the gym, the machine at home. Mommy comes home at 6, cooks dinner. Then he eats dinner, maybe takes a shower at some point, goes online again, plays games. 11:30, hits the book, study for a while. 1:30, gets online again, goes to bed at 2. Okay, typical young person's life in America. I said, well, please take out 3 markers, a red, a yellow, and a green. With a yellow marker, mark up everything you have to do just as a human being. I mean, you got to shower, you got to eat, you have to go to bed, right? Just mark up all those basic things of life. Okay, mommy is cooking. All right, you can mark that too. We're just waiting for dinner to be served. Yellow is for all the activities that's related to you as a student at the university. All right, we'll count even sitting in a car to go to school, because it's not a very long ride, about 20 minutes. Mark up all those, class time, homework, and so on. Mark up everything else in green. So we did that. I said, starting tomorrow, I want you to turn 1 hour of green into yellow. Now, we're not preaching the gospel there. We're simply trying to help him to be a more useful person, because I wasn't able to grab a handle on this young man's life. He's not a member of our church. We may never see him again after that visit. But the point is, sometimes you may not be able to find out a lot just by them talking to you. In this situation, I used the performance or action point, the point of action or performance, and I try to find out what kind of life this young person lives. Now, you can't do that with everybody. A lot of adults won't like you to be prying into their privacy like that. But we do need to find out what kind of life people live. All right? You need to gather facts. And there are some suggestions in the back there. Let me see if there are any appendices where we can show you how we gather facts. Let me find it. Yeah, on page 96. On page 96 and 97, there are 5 simple questions. Now, you can use this in an informal conversation. You just need to adapt a little bit. What is your problem? Now, of course, you may not want to phrase it quite that way. Why did you come today? Or is there anything I can help you with? Right? The whole point is, what is the issue as the person sees it? Okay. Oh, it's all her fault. It's all his fault. They're going to start blowing up, right, about somebody else. Right? Okay. Okay. What did you say your problem is? Oh, it's all her fault. It's all his fault. Yeah. May I ask, can we help you with something? What is your problem? It's all his fault. It's all right. This actually happens quite often, right? They're simply blowing up against somebody or against a situation. So just to help the person see what the problem is, sometimes will take a little effort. Sometimes it's not as difficult as that. All right, number 2. What have you done about it? Then they're going to start making excuses, right? Yeah, it doesn't work. What doesn't work? See, what is your need and what have you done about it? And by this point, you need to have a statement ready up your sleeve, so to speak. They're going to tell you what they've done about it. Well, it obviously hasn't worked very well, has it? Now, you may not want to be sarcastic about it, but the whole point is that here's a problem. They try to do something, and it hasn't worked. Number 3, what would you like us to do? What are your expectations? Why did you come here? What would you like us to do for you? And number 4, what brings you here at this time? That's another nastier way to say, why did you wait so long? Why is it at this stage that you're coming to us for help? And number 5, is there any other information that we should know? But just to get going, is there anything I can help you with this evening? And then they're going to start talking about their problems. And then let's try to focus here. I mean, they're now beginning to talk. And can we agree what is the problem that we're trying to address tonight? What would you say the problem is? See, we're still trying to focus them on what the problem is. And then ask them, what have you done about it? And how can we help you this evening? Just the first 3 questions. If you persist, just keep asking in a gentle way, rephrase it, phrase it in a gracious way. Remember, we're trying to gather facts. We're trying to gather facts. All right? If you turn from back a few pages to page 93, here is a form. You can change it a little bit here and there and tweak it. You can use it for your church or for your counseling ministry. Of course, we're talking about a more formal counseling ministry. Name, address, and so on, basic information. Marital status, don't take that for granted. There are all kinds of complicated issues there. Health information, a whole section on health. Important, huh? Bodily factors, page 94. Then religious background. Do you believe in God? Do you pray? Are you saved? How often do you read the Bible? So on. And then marriage and family information, quite a bit of that. And then personality information and a few other questions. So, generally, basic health, religion, family, personality. You may want to devise your own form, but this will get you started. You can adapt and you can change and write your own. But a data form like that for a formal counseling situation is very important. I might as well add here about confidentiality, because they're giving you some information here. I just want to share what I say in terms of confidentiality. I don't do a whole lot of counseling, but needs do come up from time to time. I would say, well, I'm an elder in the church or a minister in the church. I do not bear your burden alone. Actually, I don't want to bear your burden alone. In my life, there are 2 elders, 2 older men. Sometimes there's 2 pastors, sometimes there's 1 pastor, 1 elder, 1 pastor, 1 deacon. I have 2 older men in my life that I would alert them, inform them that I'm counseling you. I do this particularly when it's a woman. I try to avoid counseling women if at all possible. And now, I will not unnecessarily divulge details about your situation. But they have a right to ask me. You see, as a minister, as an elder, I feel the need to be protected. That 2 other gentlemen, brothers, have the right to ask, what is the problem you're counseling about, and what are you doing? What kind of counseling are you giving? That's just a Reformed Presbyterian principle of the plurality of elders at work here. And if they don't like it, they don't have to follow through with the counseling. But they need to accept that I am not bearing your burdens alone. Now, this does not mean that we share people's secrets, but it does mean that we are accountable to somebody. Sometimes it goes the other way around, and that is the counselor brings 1 or 2 student interns, and they are part of the counseling process. And of course, we need the person's consent that here are 2 of my interns, or the intern says, well, I'm under the authority of my professor, and so on. So there is a confidentiality issue here, and as Presbyterians, we ought to practice our church polity and be accountable. Okay? Lesson 9. We are talking about getting the facts. Getting the facts. We read the story about the peeping Tom controversy between Shirley and her husband. No facts gathered there. We read the story where Karen and her parents came. No facts gathered. We need to be gathering facts, right? All right, let me read you another one, and then I'm going to ask you to discuss this case. What facts have you gathered? Remember, lesson 9's about gathering facts. Frank and Phyllis, his wife. Frank has come to see you. Phyllis is not in the room. Just you, the pastor or the counselor, and Frank. 8 days after Christmas, Phyllis announced to Frank, "I'm leaving you. I waited to tell you so that I wouldn't spoil your holiday." The announcement struck Frank like lightning out of the blue. Until that very moment, he thought that they had an ideal marriage. He thought, well, we rarely argue. I'm easygoing. I ask very little more of my wife than to make the meals, wash the clothes, and keep house. I don't run around every night. You can see me at home, domestically, reading the newspaper or watching TV. We're both Christians. We go to church regularly. I love her deeply. And we've raised 3 children successfully. After all, Franklin Jr. had just left home for his 2nd semester at a Christian university. And our 2 older daughters, Betty and Joan, are already married to Christian husbands and have begun to raise their children. What on earth could have gotten into Phyllis's mind? He asked himself in startled disbelief. Now, Phyllis wouldn't talk about it and said she wouldn't go with him for counseling. So now Frank sits alone in your office pleading, "Pastor, help me. I don't want to lose Phyllis. I love her. What happened? Where did things go wrong?" Questions for discussion. Number 1, what do you think may be behind Phyllis's decision? Number 2, how firm do you think her decision is? Number 3, what must you do immediately? What must you do ultimately? Number 4, against what dangers must you guard? Well, let's just start in the beginning. What do you think may be going through Phyllis's mind? How firm do you think her decision is? And what must you do? Okay. Here she is. She has announced that she's going to leave her husband. The husband has given you the background, a solid, ideal, normal Christian family, and she is not willing to come. Repeat. What do you think is behind her decision? How firm do you think the decision is? What are you going to do? Let's break up into groups of 3 or 4 and discuss it. I hope that you were listening to the case study carefully and you were gathering facts. Okay?